songwriting is so personal. But I'm also thinking about how songwriting, based on what we've shared, can also lend itself to achieving multiple core standards. But how do you go about assessing student outcomes?
I think the same way that we assess improv lends perfectly to assessing songwriting. Whatever the parameters of the assignment were, you list those, and it's simply a checklist. However you set up your assessment, 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe it's a binary, just true or false, that is fine. And then once you have that checklist, the student knows what the expectations were, therefore it's simply complete, incomplete.
I would imagine too that based on all that we've shared and talked about, that a rubric could very well be quite large, or you could have several rubric when you're talking about, again, process and the sequence and developing kind of the layers, if you will, of understanding. What are some of the stages in terms of building those rubric so that you have something that really is, again, authentic to the process and understanding of what it means to do good songwriting? Now, I'm not talking about the outcome or the product. I'll talk about that in a moment, but just about the process of learning what it means to do some songwriting.
It all depends on how you're organizing your program. The pacing is up to you. For example, you can have just a daily check or check minus for engagement. And then that can translate to maybe a weekly, more in-depth assessment, or maybe you do it by unit, maybe you do it by semester or by quarter. There's so many ways to organize a unit. For example, I guess we can talk through one. Maybe the first assessment is listening logs. So students have to write, 3 or 4 sentence descriptions of the music that they're listening to and what musical elements did they interpret or identify in a piece.
Wonderful.
That's easily able to check, all right? Then from the listening logs, then maybe your job was to improv over 8 bars of music, right?
Okay.
And then you have an assessment for that. Then maybe you're just writing 1 musical line 1 week. Then you're adding a supporting musical line, and then maybe the objective is for students to write 1 verse of music. The pacing depends on the level of your players. If you have a more remedial class, then you're probably going to take more time on each element. If you have an advanced class, then you may be cycling through several songs a week, so that pacing is to be determined by the environment that you're in.
I understand. So how then do you incorporate in that rubric the experience of using technology?
Technology, you have the physical act of doing it, and then also the finished product. So maybe one is your piece quantized? Does it have piano, bass, drums? Are the elements leveled? Like the different skill sets that you're teaching, you want to make sure that that's is reflected in your rubric, so students have a clear idea of what they're being assessed. Also, the element of self-assessment is very important. Have the students write about their experience and their gut level reactions to what you're doing, and that can be a teachable moment for the educator to say, oh, this went very well, but maybe I need to change my delivery or my approach on this topic.
That sounds fantastic. There have been multiple conversations, and I know will continue around, oh, that's a great song. That's not a great song. It can be completely subjective. I think of artists who say, well, that's probably a song maybe only your auntie might enjoy, or maybe that's the hook.
The way that we get around this notion of is the song good or bad is, did you complete this task?
I see.
Did you
That's
do
it.
this? Did you do that? And hopefully, if you're following those directions, then your final product is not something that the teacher is unfamiliar with. So it's never, oh, is this good or is it bad? Because you have been intimate with this work throughout the entire journey. So you're giving the student this feedback as you go along. And, you know, a song may not be your favorite, but it's a good song if they follow the directions, and it's good because it's their work and they own it.
Wonderful.